The woman who changed Adrian Whitmore's wedding never asked him to leave his bride. In fact, she was trying desperately to make sure the wedding happened at all. At 42, Adrian had everything his younger self once believed would make a man untouchable. Whitmore Capital controlled billions in assets. His name appeared on Manhattan towers, charitable foundations, and business magazines. Yet beneath the towering stained-glass windows of St. Augustine Hall, the white billionaire felt strangely trapped. At the end of the aisle waited Vanessa Harrington. Beautiful, elegant, born into extraordinary wealth. Her ivory wedding gown had taken 8 months to create, and the diamond around her neck was worth more than most people's homes. Their marriage would unite two powerful families. Everyone called it perfect. Everyone except Adrian's heart. 5 minutes, his father whispered. Adrian nodded. Then a frightened voice came from behind the floral partition. Please, ma'am. I didn't steal anything. Adrian turned. A young black woman in a catering uniform stood near the service entrance. Her name tag read Lena Morris. A security manager held her worn handbag. Vanessa's mother stood nearby. The bracelet disappeared from the bridal suite, she said coldly. She was working upstairs. Lena's deep brown eyes widened. I delivered champagne. That's all. Then you won't mind us checking. The manager emptied her bag onto a table. A wallet, bus card, house keys, a nursing textbook with worn corners, an inhaler, and a small paper envelope labeled Grandma's medication. No bracelet. Lena quietly gathered her belongings. I told you. Vanessa appeared behind Adrian. What's happening? Her mother explained. Vanessa glanced at Lena. Just send her home. We're about to start. Adrian looked at his bride. She was falsely accused. And now we know she didn't do it. No apology? Vanessa sighed. Adrian, today is already stressful enough. Lena heard her. She said nothing. Instead, she noticed something on the floor beneath the bridal table. A flash of diamonds. Lena bent down. When she stood, the missing bracelet rested in her palm. Everyone froze. She could have remained silent. She could have walked away after being humiliated. Instead, Lena crossed the room and placed the bracelet into Vanessa's hand. You'll want this for the photographs. Vanessa stared at her. No accusation. No revenge. No demand for an apology. Only dignity. Then an elderly server rushed toward them. Lena, your grandmother called. The pharmacy says her prescription wasn't covered. For the first time, Lena's composure cracked. How much? He whispered the amount. Adrian heard it. To him, it was less than the cost of one bottle of champagne being served outside. Lena closed her eyes. I'll figure it out. Vanessa examined her recovered bracelet. Can we start now? Adrian slowly turned toward her. Something inside him shifted. Across from him stood a woman wearing millions in diamonds who had watched another human being be humiliated and felt inconvenienced. Beside her stood a woman worried about medication she could barely afford, yet who had just returned a fortune to the people who had suspected her. Lena picked up her nursing textbook. Their eyes met. She gave Adrian a polite nod and headed toward the service door. She wanted nothing from him. Not money. Not gratitude. Not attention. And that was precisely what stopped him. Adrian. Vanessa extended her hand. The orchestra began. 300 guests rose. But Adrian remained motionless. Because seconds before walking toward the altar, he finally understood something terrifying. The poorest woman in the building had just demonstrated a kind of wealth his entire world could not purchase. And suddenly, marrying the richest woman in the room felt like the poorest decision of his life. Adrian Whitmore had spent 20 years learning how to close billion-dollar deals. But standing 10 feet from the altar, he discovered there was no graceful way to negotiate with the truth. The orchestra continued. 300 guests stood beneath the vaulted ceiling. Vanessa Harrington extended her hand toward him. Adrian. He looked at her, then toward the service door where Lena Morris had disappeared. Wait. One word changed the room. Vanessa's smile tightened. For what? Adrian glanced at the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Did you know they searched her bag? Vanessa lowered her voice. Are we really discussing the caterer during our wedding? She was accused of stealing from you. And she didn't. That isn't the point. Vanessa stared at him. What is happening? Adrian wished he knew how to explain it. Lena had not enchanted him. He barely knew her. She had simply forced him to see something he could no longer unsee. A woman with almost nothing had been humiliated, then found the very bracelet she was accused of stealing and returned it without bitterness. Meanwhile, Everyone around Adrian had treated her dignity like an inconvenience, including him. He had watched. That realization hurt most. Someone should apologize to her. Vanessa's expression hardened. Fine. After the ceremony. Why after? Because hundreds of people are waiting. There it was. Appearance first. Humanity later. Adrian looked toward his father. Charles Whitmore gave him a warning stare. The Harrington merger depended on this marriage. Luxury developments. Private equity partnerships. Billions. Adrian. Vanessa whispered, walked down that aisle. He remained still. Do you love me? Her face changed. What? Do you love me? This is absurd. Answer me. Vanessa looked around at the watching guests. We have built a life together. No. Our families built one around us. That's not fair. Maybe not. Adrian exhaled. But it's true. Vanessa's eyes filled with anger. This is because of her. No. You looked at that woman like she had revealed some great secret. Perhaps she had. Not about love. About character. Vanessa stepped closer. What could a poor caterer possibly give you that I can't? Adrian shook his head. This isn't about what she can give me. Then what? She had every reason to humiliate you after what happened. His voice softened. And she chose dignity. Vanessa recoiled. You're comparing me to her? I'm comparing myself to what I saw. Silence spread across the hall. Adrian looked toward the altar. The flowers were perfect. The photographs would have been perfect. The marriage would have looked perfect. And suddenly that terrified him. I'm sorry. Vanessa's face went pale. No, I can't marry you. A gasp moved through the guests. Charles stepped forward. Think carefully, son. For once, I am. Vanessa removed her engagement ring with trembling fingers. You're leaving me at the altar for a woman whose last name you learned 10 minutes ago. Adrian looked directly at her. No, he placed his boutonniere beside the rings. I'm leaving because meeting her made me realize I was about to marry you for every reason except the one that matters. He turned and walked away. Not toward Lena. Away from the altar. Outside, cold Manhattan air struck his face. His father followed him onto the steps. If you leave now, the Harrington partnership dies. Adrian stopped. How much? Potentially $3 billion. Once, that number would have controlled him. Today, he thought about the envelope marked Grandma's medication. About Lena returning diamonds to people who had questioned her integrity. About wealth measured in ways no balance sheet could record. Then we lose $3 billion. Charles stared at him. Adrian descended the steps alone. He had no idea where Lena Morris had gone. He did not know whether he would ever see her again. But for the first time in years, Adrian knew exactly where he could no longer remain. And behind him, the wedding of the year collapsed beneath millions of dollars in flowers, because one poor woman had unknowingly reminded a billionaire that a beautiful life and a valuable life were not always the same thing. By sunrise, Adrian Whitmore's abandoned wedding was everywhere, but the woman being blamed for it was sitting beside a pharmacy counter counting $20 bills. Lena Morris counted again. Still not enough. Her grandmother's prescription sat inside a white paper bag behind the pharmacist. I can hold it until tomorrow, he said gently. Lena forced a smile. Thank you. Her phone vibrated. 6 missed calls. 3 messages from the catering agency. Then a news alert appeared. Billionaire abandons heiress at altar after encounter with mystery caterer. Lena froze. No, she opened the article. There was Adrian, Vanessa, and, near the bottom, a blurry photograph of Lena carrying her nursing textbook through the service entrance. Her stomach tightened. She had spoken to Adrian for less than a minute. She had never asked him for anything. Yet strangers were already turning her into the reason a billionaire had destroyed his wedding. Across Manhattan, Adrian faced a different storm. Whitmore Capital's boardroom was silent. His father stood beside a screen displaying falling projections. The Harringtons suspended the Riverside acquisition. Adrian loosened his tie. I expected that. They may withdraw from 2 other ventures. Then we replace them. Charles stared at him. You threw away billions because a waitress returned a bracelet. Adrian's expression hardened. Her name is Lena Morris. His father went still. You know her name. That doesn't make her responsible. A communications executive slid a tablet across the table. Unfortunately, the press disagrees. Adrian saw Lena's photograph. Something cold moved through him. Release a statement. Saying that I ended the wedding because of my own decisions. Lena Morris had nothing to do with it. Charles shook his head. You'll create more attention. She's already receiving attention for something she didn't do. By afternoon, Adrian learned the catering agency had suspended Lena. He found her at a small community health center in Brooklyn, organizing donated supplies. When Lena saw him, she immediately walked outside. "You cannot be here. I came to apologize." "Then apologize from Manhattan." Adrian stopped. "I heard you were suspended." "I'll manage. I can fix it." Her eyes sharpened. There it was. The billionaire's instinct. One call, one check, one command. Problem erased. "No, they treated you unfairly. That doesn't make my life yours to manage." Adrian absorbed the words. "I'm trying to help." "I know." Her voice softened slightly. "That's what makes it complicated." He looked through the window. Volunteers packed medical supplies into cardboard boxes. What would actually help? Lena studied him. Perhaps she expected another offer. Instead, she pointed towards several boxes beside the door. "Those need to go downstairs." Adrian removed his jacket. "Where?" A surprised smile touched her lips. "Basement." For the next hour, Adrian carried boxes. No assistants. No photographers. No speeches. When they finished, Lena handed him water. "You're terrible at following labels. I manage 12,000 employees. None of them have apparently taught you where bandages go." He laughed. Then his eyes fell on the nursing textbook beneath her coat. "You're studying? Trying to go back. What stopped you?" "My grandmother got sick." Adrian remembered the medication envelope. His instinct returned. "Pay everything." But this time he stopped. "Do you still want to become a nurse?" Lena looked at him. "Yes." "Then I hope you do." That was all. No rescue. Something changed in her expression. Adrian turned to leave. "Mr. Whitmore." He looked back. "Adrian." Lena hesitated. "Adrian." It sounded different from her. "Why did you really leave Vanessa?" He considered the question. "Because watching you return that bracelet made me realize something." "What?" "I had spent years asking whether Vanessa fit my life." His voice lowered. "I never asked whether I respected the man I became beside her." Lena remained silent. Adrian walked away. She watched him disappear into the Brooklyn evening. For the first time, she wondered whether the billionaire had truly abandoned his wedding because of a poor black woman. Perhaps the reason that stunned everyone was simpler. She had not stolen Adrian Whitmore from his future. She had accidentally shown him the courage to stop stealing that future from himself. Adrian Whitmore had spent his entire life being welcomed into rooms because of his name. Lena Morris was the first person who made him wonder whether he deserved to stay. Saturday morning found Adrian standing outside the Brooklyn Community Health Center in dark jeans and a navy sweater. Lena opened the door. "You came back. You sound disappointed." "I'm deciding." Adrian glanced inside. "What needs carrying?" A smile threatened the corner of her mouth. "Today, nothing." "Then I may finally be qualified." "Don't celebrate yet." She handed him a paint roller. The consultation room. 3 hours later, Adrian had pale blue paint across one sleeve and absolutely no authority over a 70-year-old volunteer named Mrs. Daniels. "You missed that corner," she told him. "I painted it twice." "Then miss it correctly a third time." Lena laughed from across the room. Adrian looked at her. Not the billionaire glance that measured people. Not curiosity. Something warmer. She wore faded jeans and an old gray sweatshirt, her natural curls loosely tied back. Without the tension of the wedding or reporters outside, her face seemed lighter. For several seconds, Adrian forgot to paint. "You're staring," Lena said. "I'm evaluating your supervision." "Poorly." "Extremely." Later, they sat on the building's back steps eating sandwiches. Adrian's phone vibrated. His father. He ignored it. Then Vanessa's name appeared. Lena noticed. "You should answer." "I already apologized." "That doesn't mean she stopped hurting." Adrian looked at her. "You're defending her after what happened?" "I'm not defending what she did." Lena folded the sandwich wrapper carefully. "But being wrong doesn't make someone incapable of being hurt." Adrian became quiet. Again, she refused the easy moral victory. No enemies. No convenient villains. Just consequences. "I humiliated her," he said. "Yes." "I should have ended things sooner." "Yes." "You could occasionally disagree with me." "I'll consider it." He smiled. Then his eyes fell on the nursing textbook beside her. "What kind of nurse did you want to become?" Lena hesitated. "Emergency care." "Why?" "My mother." Adrian waited. She worked nights cleaning offices. One evening she collapsed at work. "A nurse stayed with me at the hospital until my grandmother arrived." Lena looked toward the street. "I was 19 and terrified. That nurse couldn't fix everything. Her voice softened. But she made sure I wasn't alone. Adrian understood. So you wanted to become that person for someone else? Yes. His instinct arrived immediately. Tuition, medical bills, a scholarship. He could solve everything before sunset. But Lena had already taught him the difference between helping and taking control. What would make going back possible? She studied him. Why are you asking? Because I want to understand. Not fix. Adrian smiled faintly. I'm trying. Lena considered the question. Time. Tuition. Grandma being stable enough that I can focus. Adrian nodded. No offer followed. Her expression softened. Thank you. For doing nothing? For listening without turning my life into your project. Their eyes held. The space between them suddenly felt smaller. Then Adrian's phone vibrated again. Vanessa. This time, he answered. Hello. Lena stood to give him privacy. Adrian spoke quietly for several minutes. No defensiveness. No excuses. When the call ended, he remained seated. She said she hates me. Lena sat beside him again. Maybe she does right now. I don't blame her. That sounds healthier. Adrian laughed softly. Then silence settled between them. Not awkward. Safe. For years, Adrian had mistaken intimacy for access. Private jets, shared penthouses, exclusive invitations. But beside Lena, he discovered something money had never guaranteed. The freedom to be corrected without being diminished. The safety of telling the truth without negotiating its price. And as afternoon lights stretched across the Brooklyn pavement, Adrian realized the poor woman everyone believed had stolen him from his wedding had done nothing of the kind. Lena Morris was simply teaching him how to return to himself. The moment Vanessa Harrington realized Adrian was no longer confused was the moment heartbreak stopped looking like sadness and began looking for someone to blame. She arrived at the Brooklyn Community Health Center shortly before closing. Lena was organizing medical supplies when a black sedan stopped outside. Vanessa stepped onto the sidewalk wearing a cream designer coat. Lena recognized her immediately. Miss Harrington, we need to talk. If this is about Adrian, you should talk to Adrian. I already have. Vanessa entered without waiting for permission. Her eyes moved across the modest room. Donated supplies. Folding chairs. Painted walls. Then she noticed Lena's nursing textbook. So this is your life. Lena's expression remained calm. It's part of it. Vanessa opened her handbag and removed an envelope. She placed it on the counter. What is that? Enough to finish nursing school. Lena did not touch it. Vanessa continued. Tuition. Living expenses. Your grandmother's medical bills. Whatever else you need. And what do you need? Vanessa's jaw tightened. Disappear from Adrian's life. Silence. Lena looked at the envelope. The amount inside could solve problems that kept her awake at night. Medication. Tuition. Rent. For one dangerous second, she imagined breathing without fear of the next bill. Then she pushed the envelope back. No, Vanessa stared at her. You haven't even looked at the amount. I don't need to. Everyone has a price. Everyone has needs. Lena met her eyes. That isn't the same thing. Vanessa's composure cracked. You think refusing money makes you better than me? No. Then what exactly do you have that makes Adrian look at you like that? Lena became still. I don't know how Adrian looks at me. Don't insult me. Vanessa's voice trembled. I had everything he was supposed to want. Lena heard something beneath the anger. Pain. Real pain. You loved him. Vanessa looked away. I was going to marry him. That wasn't what I said. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then the door opened. Adrian entered carrying 2 boxes of donated supplies. He stopped when he saw Vanessa. His eyes dropped to the envelope. Understanding came quickly. Vanessa, I was fixing what you destroyed. Adrian set the boxes down. You offered Lena money? She needs it. Lena spoke before he could continue. I handled it. Adrian looked at her. Old instinct flashed across his face. Protect. Control. Solve. Then he stopped. What do you need me to do? Nothing. He nodded. Vanessa stared at him in disbelief. You're letting her speak to me like this? Adrian's voice remained calm. She doesn't need my permission to speak. Vanessa looked between them. What does she have that I don't? Adrian could have answered. Weeks earlier, perhaps he would have. Instead, he looked at Vanessa with something closer to sadness than anger. That question isn't fair to either of you. Her eyes filled. I lost you because of her. No, Adrian stepped closer. You lost the future we planned because I should have ended it long before our wedding day. Vanessa's face tightened. That responsibility is mine. Lena watched him carefully. No blame. No convenient villain. No attempt to turn her into the heroic reason for his transformation. Adrian finally owned his choice. Vanessa slowly took back the envelope. Before leaving, she looked at Lena. You could have changed your entire life. Lena glanced at her worn textbook. I intend to. With what? My own choices. Vanessa left without another word. The sedan disappeared into evening traffic. Adrian remained near the doorway. You really refused enough money to finish school? Lena looked at him. I didn't refuse a future. She picked up her textbook. I refused to let someone else purchase the right to decide it. Adrian smiled quietly. And in that modest Brooklyn room, surrounded by donated medicine and unfinished dreams, he finally understood the reason Lena Morris had stunned him from the beginning. She was not extraordinary because she was poor and refused wealth. She was extraordinary because hardship had never convinced her that dignity was a luxury. And that was something even a billionaire had to learn how to earn. The most dangerous test of Adrian Whitmore's transformation came when doing the right thing threatened to cost him everything. And Lena Morris was nowhere near the room to see it. Monday morning, Adrian entered Whitmore Capital's boardroom beneath a silence usually reserved for bad earnings reports. 12 directors waited. His father sat at the opposite end of the polished table. Behind Charles Whitmore, a screen displayed the damage. Harrington Partnership terminated. 3 developments suspended. Investors withdrawing. Projected losses approaching $3 billion. Charles folded his hands. The Harringtons have made their final offer. Adrian sat down. I'm listening. Publicly reconcile with Vanessa. Announced that postponing the wedding was a personal misunderstanding. The partnerships resume. And the marriage? Charles hesitated. They expect the engagement restored. Adrian almost laughed. You're negotiating my marriage in a boardroom. I'm protecting this company by turning 2 people into corporate assets. Charles's expression hardened. You didn't object for 5 years. The truth landed cleanly. Adrian nodded. You're right. Several directors looked surprised. I allowed it because it was convenient. Because everyone approved. Because I confused expectation with choice. He leaned forward. That was my failure. Charles stared at him. Then corrected. I am. Adrian looked around the table. There will be no engagement. Silence. One director removed his glasses. We could lose billions. Then we rebuild. And if shareholders lose confidence, then I answer to them. Charles's voice lowered. For Lena Morris? Adrian's expression changed. No, don't be naive. This is exactly what Lena told me not to do. He stood. Make her the reward for becoming someone better. The room remained still. I left Vanessa because marrying her would have been dishonest. Whether Lena ever chooses to be part of my life has nothing to do with that decision. Across Brooklyn, Lena faced consequences of her own. A photographer had discovered the health center. By afternoon, reporters crowded the sidewalk. Lena, did Adrian leave Vanessa for you? Did he pay your grandmother's medical bills? How much has he given you? Lena walked through them without answering. Inside, she closed the door and leaned against it. Her grandmother sat nearby waiting for an appointment. You look tired, she said. I'm tired of strangers deciding who I am. Her grandmother reached for her hand. Then don't borrow your identity from strangers. That evening, Adrian arrived outside the center. Lena met him before he entered. You shouldn't be here. His face tightened. The reporters? They're part of it. I can send security. Adrian stopped himself. The old instinct. Fix. Control. Decide. He exhaled. What do you need? Lena looked at him for several seconds. Distance. The word struck harder than any boardroom threat. Still, Adrian nodded. How much? I don't know. All right. You're not going to argue? You asked me to listen. Her expression softened, but only slightly. I never asked you to leave Vanessa. I know. I never asked you to lose billions. I know. And I cannot become proof that destroying your old life was worth it. Adrian absorbed the words. You aren't. Then build something better even if I'm never standing beside you. Silence stretched between them. No business negotiation had ever demanded more from him. Change without reward. Integrity without an audience. A future without certainty. Finally, Adrian nodded. I will. He stepped backward. I won't contact you unless you choose otherwise. Lena's eyes glistened. Adrian turned and walked toward his car. He did not look back. And somehow, that mattered more than every dramatic gesture he could have made. Lena watched him disappear beneath the Brooklyn streetlights. For the first time, Adrian Whitmore was not trying to win the woman who had changed him. He was accepting the possibility that he might lose her. Because perhaps love was not proven by how tightly a man held on. Perhaps it was proven by who he became after being asked to let go. For the first time in Adrian Whitmore's life, becoming a better man came with no contract guaranteeing that anyone would be waiting when he finished. 7 weeks passed. Adrian kept his promise. No calls. No flowers. No carefully arranged encounters at the Brooklyn Health Center. He did not send money for Lena's tuition. He did not quietly pay her grandmother's medical bills. Instead, he returned to Whitmore Capital and began looking at his own world with different eyes. The first report disturbed him. Hundreds of employees were working second jobs. Some had postponed college because tuition was impossible. Others were afraid to take unpaid leave when parents became ill. Whitmore Capital donated millions to prestigious charities every year. Yet people carrying company identification cards were quietly struggling. At the next board meeting, Adrian placed 3 proposals on the table. Expanded family leave, emergency medical assistance, employee education grants. His father read the documents. How much? $28 million in the first year. And the return? Adrian leaned back. Not everything valuable belongs in a quarterly report. Charles looked at him. This is because of Lena. No, Adrian's answer was immediate. It's because I should have noticed years ago. The board approved the programs narrowly. When the communications team suggested a publicity campaign, Adrian refused. No press release. His father frowned. Why waste the goodwill? Adrian remembered Lena returning Vanessa's bracelet when nobody would have blamed her for walking away. Because kindness performed only when someone is watching becomes advertising. Across Brooklyn, Lena knew none of this. Her life had returned to ordinary difficulty. Morning shifts, evening volunteer hours, medication schedules with her grandmother, bills carefully arranged on the kitchen table. Then one Thursday, a thick envelope arrived. The nursing school seal appeared in the corner. Lena stopped breathing. Her grandmother watched from across the room. Open it. Lena tore the envelope carefully. Her eyes moved across the first paragraph, then filled with tears. I got back in. Her grandmother covered her mouth. The school had approved Lena's reentry. A partial scholarship would cover much of the tuition. Not everything. She would still need to work. Still sacrifice. Still count dollars. But the path was open, and it belonged to her. That night, Lena thought about Adrian. Not his fortune, not the wedding, not the newspapers. She remembered the man who had walked away when she asked him to. 3 days later, she entered Whitmore Capital. Adrian was alone in his office when the door opened. He looked up. For several seconds, neither spoke. Lena, you stayed away. You asked me to. I know. He stood but did not approach. Lena crossed the room and handed him the letter. Adrian read it. His face transformed. Nursing school. She nodded. You're going back. I'm going back. A genuine smile broke across his face. You did it. Not we. Not I helped. You. Lena noticed. Then her eyes fell on documents across his desk. Employee education grant. Family medical leave. Emergency support fund. She looked at him. What are these? Things we should have done sooner. You changed all this. With people smarter than me. Why didn't you tell me? Adrian's expression softened. Because you asked me to build a life I respected even if you never came back. Lena became still. There it was. The answer she had needed without knowing she needed it. He had changed without an audience. Without certainty. Without her as a reward. She stepped closer. Adrian remained where he was. You finally learned something, billionaire. I'm hoping several things. Lena smiled. Then she extended her hand. Adrian looked at it before gently taking it. No diamonds. No promises. No reporters. Just a choice freely offered. Coffee? Lena asked. Adrian smiled. Is that a date? It's coffee. Understood. She walked toward the door, then glanced back. But if you behave, there might be dinner. Adrian laughed and followed her. For decades, his name had opened every important door. This one was different. Lena had opened it herself. And Adrian finally understood why that made walking through it more valuable than anything he had ever bought. The real test of Adrian Whitmore's transformation came when Lena Morris finally stepped into his world, not as a woman he had rescued, but as a woman who had never needed his permission to belong there. For months later, Lena stood outside the Whitmore Foundation Winter Gala. Through towering glass doors, Manhattan's elite moved beneath crystal chandeliers. The setting reminded her painfully of the wedding. Only tonight, she carried no serving tray. She wore a deep sapphire gown, elegant and understated, her natural curls framing her face. Around her neck rested a small silver pendant that had belonged to her mother. Adrian waited near the entrance. The moment he saw her, he stopped speaking. Lena approached. "You're staring. I'm aware. Should I be concerned?" "Probably." She laughed. Then she noticed the room noticing her. Whispers traveled between guests. Some recognized the poor black catering worker newspapers had once blamed for destroying Adrian Whitmore's wedding. Lena's shoulders tightened. Adrian noticed. He extended his arm. He did not take hers. He waited. After a moment, Lena chose to slip her hand around it. Together, they entered. Charles Whitmore stood near the stage. His eyes settled on Lena. "Miss Morris. Mr. Whitmore. My son has become considerably more expensive since meeting you." Adrian's expression hardened. But Lena answered first. Maybe he finally learned that saving money and having values aren't always the same thing. Charles blinked. For one dangerous second, silence stretched between them. Then the older man almost smiled. Perhaps. Later, a reporter approached. "Mr. Whitmore, was Lena Morris the real reason you abandoned Vanessa Harrington at the altar?" Nearby conversations faded. Adrian turned toward Lena. Months earlier, he would have answered for her. Now his eyes silently asked permission. Lena nodded. Adrian faced the reporter. "No, but you met her minutes before leaving." "Yes." "So she changed your decision." Adrian considered the question. "She showed me something." "What?" "Character." The reporter leaned closer. "You're saying Miss Morris changed you?" "No," Adrian's answer came firmly. "She gave me a reason to examine myself. Changing was my responsibility." Lena looked at him. That distinction meant everything. She was not his redemption, not his reward, not the poor woman whose suffering existed to make a billionaire better. She was simply Lena. Across the ballroom, Vanessa stood near the windows. Their eyes met. Adrian's expression carried no anger, only regret for the humiliation he had caused. He gave her a respectful nod. After a long pause, Vanessa returned it. Closure. Nothing more. Then the orchestra began playing. Adrian turned toward Lena. "Dance with me. I have clinical rounds tomorrow." "One dance. You negotiate professionally. This feels unfair. I'm losing my touch." Lena smiled and placed her hand in his. "One." They moved beneath the chandeliers. Around them glittered diamonds, designer gowns, champagne, and everything Adrian had once mistaken for proof of success. "Are you happy?" Lena asked. Adrian looked at her. "Yes. Because I came back." He shook his head. "Because I became someone I could respect before you did." Lena's eyes softened. "And now? Now I'm grateful." "For what?" "That you chose to stand here." There was no engagement ring waiting in Adrian's pocket. No announcement. No carefully designed future. He had finally learned that real love could not be acquired, accelerated, or guaranteed. It could only be offered space to grow. And beneath the golden chandeliers, Lena realized she had learned something too. She no longer feared entering Adrian Whitmore's world, because she knew she would never have to become smaller to remain beside him. The poor woman who had once entered rooms through service doors now walked through the front entrance with her head high. Not because a billionaire had elevated her, but because she had finally met one who understood she had never been beneath him. Adrian Whitmore had once left an altar because he finally understood the life he could no longer live. 1 year later, he returned to the place where everything collapsed because he finally knew the life he wanted to build. St. Augustine Hall looked different without 300 guests. No photographers, no orchestra, no mountains of white roses. Only afternoon sunlight pouring through the stained glass windows. Lena stood beside Adrian near the service entrance where they had first met. "You brought me back here." "I did." "That's either romantic or emotionally questionable." "I was hoping for romantic." She smiled. 3 weeks earlier, Lena had completed nursing school. Adrian had attended her graduation beside her grandmother. When Lena crossed the stage, he stood and applauded. No donation bearing his name. No favor behind the scenes. No billionaire claiming part of her achievement. She had earned it. Today, Lena wore a simple cream dress and her mother's silver pendant. Adrian looked toward the place where security had once emptied her handbag. "I've thought about that day more times than I can count." "The wedding." "You." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Careful." Not because you were poor. Her expression softened. Not because you needed saving. You didn't. Adrian stepped closer. I remember watching you return that bracelet after people had humiliated you. Lena glanced toward the empty hall. I was angry. I know. I wanted to walk away with it. Adrian smiled slightly. But you didn't. No, why? She thought for a moment. Because their behavior belonged to them. Mine belonged to me. Adrian became still. There it was again. The lesson that had begun everything. He reached inside his jacket. Lena's eyes widened when he removed a small velvet box. Adrian. He held it without opening it. The last time I stood here preparing to marry someone, I was thinking about expectations. Family. Business. Reputation. His voice lowered. I wasn't thinking enough about truth. He opened the box. Inside rested an elegant diamond ring. Beautiful. Simple. Adrian lowered himself onto one knee. Lena covered her mouth. I don't want to rescue you. Tears gathered in her eyes. I don't want you to fit inside a life I already designed. He looked up at her. I want us to build one together. Your work. My work. Your dreams. Mine. And whatever we choose between them. Lena's tears finally fell. Lena Morris, will you marry me? She let the silence remain for one heartbeat. Then smiled. Yes. Adrian exhaled as though he had been holding his breath for a year. Yes. Yes, billionaire. He laughed. Months later, they married at the Brooklyn Community Health Center. Mrs. Daniels arranged the flowers. Lena's grandmother sat in the front row. Charles Whitmore attended without mentioning a single business deal. Vanessa sent a handwritten card wishing them peace. There were no merger documents waiting afterward. No strategic announcement. Only vows. When Adrian placed the ring on Lena's finger, he understood why the reason behind his abandoned wedding had stunned everyone. People had assumed he left a rich woman because he wanted a poor one. They were wrong. Lena had never offered Adrian a better fortune. She had shown him a better measure of one. Integrity when insulted. Compassion without reward. Dignity without wealth. And the courage to remain yourself when money offers an easier identity. Adrian Whitmore had spent decades learning how to recognize expensive things. Lena Morris taught him something harder. Price could be calculated. Value had to be understood. And the greatest thing she ever gave him was not a reason to leave another woman. It was the courage to become a man who would never again confuse what looked valuable with what truly was.